Welcome back, Caddy Corner, episode 70. I'm Austin.
And I'm Caleb.
Dude, I feel like we haven't said a number that ends with a 0 in a long time.
Yeah.
70.
7-0.
7-0. Well, here we are. 70 episodes of this show and we are back with the Back to School series. Episode 2, I suppose, of the Back to School series. This is the Student Essentials episode, I guess. We definitely have done this episode in the past.
Oh, yeah.
However, I think it's super important. It's kind of the first step to your school year, and what you have in your backpack is very important because it sets you up for success directly. It's the tools that you use every day, and so it's super important that you get that dialed in. So Caleb and I have done this forever, the whole Back to School Essentials thing, and so we kind of know at this point what we like and what we don't like and what we actually use versus what we don't use, and we're just kind of here to spread that knowledge around for the sake of doing it. So, and I'm Austin.
We already did
did that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I couldn't remember at all. Literally couldn't remember at all. So we're just going to kind of jump right into it. Before we get too far into it, though, make sure to rate and review the show. If you are new on the audio platforms, it means a ton, and it really helps the show grow. And then if you're also on the YouTube channel, just like, comment, and subscribe. And these are super good episodes. Share around to anybody that you know or don't know that's a student. You know, you don't have to necessarily send it to people that you know. Just send it to anybody, whether you know them or not. And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Caleb, take it away.
Sounds good. So we were just talking a little bit right before we press record. I got a little more literal list here of some back-to-school essentials, products that I think that you should consider in your backpack. Austin's going to take it in a little bit different direction, and so definitely look forward to that and stick around to see him drop some knowledge bombs.
Knowledge bombs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, dude.
All right. So, number 1 on the list for me, and we just talked about this a little bit last week, but backpack.
Backpack is super important.
It's so important. You gotta have a good backpack, and you gotta make sure that your backpack has enough space for all of your stuff.
It's super important.
Because, for one, who knows how much stuff you're going to be carrying around. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much stuff you're going to need throughout the day. And so whenever you're backpack shopping, you got to take that into consideration. You know, you got to think about, is all my stuff going to fit in this bag? And is it going to fit in there comfortably so that I'm not
unpacking and fully repacking every time?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's super important. I am a fool for the small pockets in book bags.
Oh, yeah, sure. The little compartments.
I love the little compartments.
Mm-hmm.
I love having a lot of them. I love putting my stuff in there, and then one thing that I own fits perfectly in one singular pocket.
Yeah.
So good.
Finding the use for the pocket for you.
So good.
Dude, there's nothing like that.
It is so
That's an insane feeling. Yeah, that's a sick feeling.
It's so good.
It's so good.
So I love the little compartments and the small pockets in the book bags. If you're into that sort of thing, like you said, finding a use for a pocket,
Dude,
there's nothing like it.
I haven't even thought about that feeling in so long.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. And then and you get the feeling every time you put the thing back where it belongs. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
Yeah,
it really
so
is. Definitely think about that. But yeah, having a nice backpack, a nice sturdy backpack that's going to last you for a while. You know, backpacks are kind of expensive. If you get a good one,
but dude, they never die.
Yeah,
never die.
You can use them forever and ever.
Yeah.
And so definitely one of the things that you have to splurge on so that you can have a nice, enjoyable.
I mean, you won't have to buy
experience.
It again. You can so easily buy a backpack that will last you the entirety of college.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it'll last you way longer than that, too.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you could get a backpack freshman year of high school, and it can last you until you graduate college.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
As long as it has the right amount of space. The only thing that you have to think about whenever you're buying a backpack, whenever you are going to college, or, I don't know, high school is weird with, the tech that you have to carry around, but you're not going to carry any smaller than a 13-inch laptop.
Yeah.
Because that just doesn't exist, really.
Right.
And so you have to at least fit that, and that's, pretty big.
Yeah.
13 inches is not a small thing, you know? But then there's larger and heavier as well. So, yeah, I mean, every pocket in your backpack has kind of a use, like the laptop sleeve. If you also too, if you don't need a laptop, then don't get a backpack with a laptop sleeve, because then it's just going to be heavier, you know? Whenever you are looking for a backpack, like you said, just imagine where you're going to put the stuff, you know? And if you get a good backpack, like you said, like it'll just never die. I'm a humongous advocate for buying anything like that from like outdoor, like camping type brands.
Yeah.
I love North Face backpacks because they never die. They're like waterproof, so you don't have to worry about any of your stuff getting wet. The zippers never get jammed. That's one of my biggest pet peeves of like crappy products is when the zippers get jammed.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. Water bottle pockets never rip. I mean, they're just great. And then they also have tons of those like little pockets and stuff like that, and also like slots for carabiners if you're into that.
Yeah.
So super important. And then another thing to think about too is not only do you have like the stuff that always goes in your backpack, like books and that kind of stuff, like your tech and your pens and your papers, but there's also going to be days where it rains and then it stops raining. So you're going to have to throw your raincoat in your backpack or something like that. Or maybe you're somewhere where it's cold and you need like backup sleeves just in case. Who knows, worth thinking about. Like, can I fit a raincoat in my backpack?
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to be carrying that thing around,
No.
So when you are looking for your backpack as well, super important. Just think about like you want the most amount of space you can have that makes sense, the most amount of usable space. It's kind of the way that I always think about it. So, yeah, backpacks. We can talk about backpacks for literally all day.
Yeah,
they're the best.
They are.
They are the best. I have my notes kind of broken down into 3 main sections. So, and I'll start this off here. So I have the first section is the analog section, which is basically everything that is not digital is in this section, basically. So, for myself, I think it's super important because you go to Target or you go to wherever you buy your back-to-school supplies and you walk down the back-to-school section. What do you see? You see every single pen that's ever been made, all of the different things. Like you got your 3-ring binders, you got your folders, you got your notebooks, all of that stuff. It's super important to only get the things that you need and that you're actually going to use because it's super easy to just buy it all, And then you end up with just a bunch of junk. But for me, when it comes to like analog things that I'm writing on or engaging with in the real world, it's only things that I think are going to be like fun for me to use, that I'm going to like look forward to using,
Yeah.
I do most of my stuff digitally, and so I don't have very many things in my analog section, but things that I always keep are like sticky notes, good pens, like smear-resistant pens, because I will drag my hand across it just because that's what I do, I guess. I think pencils are important, and just kind of little things like that. So I just think it's super important to buy things that are physical products that you're going to use every day, like tools, I guess. Buy ones that you're actually going to use.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And you said it last week, too, I'm pretty sure, or we were talking about this another time, but you said something like if you aren't excited to use something,
you're not going to.
Then you're never going to use it.
Never.
Which I think is so true. Because I feel like any time that I buy something, then obviously if I'm spending my money on it, then I think that it's something that I'm going to use. I don't just go and shop for
fun.
Yeah, junk because I want to spend money or whatever. But it's like everything that I buy, I'm always
it fills a hole.
I'm always anxious for it to come in the mail because I want to start putting it into my daily life or whatever, and that is I think what fuels the keeping using it because if you just buy something and you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to use it or not until it comes in,
probably won't use it.
You're never going to use it.
And I mean, you might. Maybe some people are different where they need like a trial run,
Possibly.
But it's just not. It's not how I've ever felt.
Yeah, that's not how I feel either.
It's just, I don't know. And also at this point in being a student, I know what I need and don't need. So I'm kind of saying this from the perspective of somebody who has gone through, I guess, some level of trial run. But I'm a digital guy, so I have more crap in that section of this. But yeah. But I mean, like seriously, like if you're not excited to use it, you're never going to.
Yeah.
So I really believe in that.
Yeah. So my next thing, and probably the most important thing on the list, I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way early, and that is storage.
Yes.
So for students, your storage can be either physical or it can be digital, and you need them both, definitely. But if you are somebody who does a lot of work on pencil and paper and you have a lot of papers and all this stuff, then what you need to do is you need to get folders and binders, and you need to get one of those little file organizers and all that stuff, and that's what you need to use for storage. But if you are a digital guy like myself,
Yeah.
then you got to have your digital storage. So whether that's an HD or SSD or flash drives or whatever.
SD cards, I guess.
SD
if you're
cards.
Into that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who uses flash drives anymore,
Yeah.
but I'm sure somebody does.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and if that's what you need, then you got to get it. And so you just gotta make sure that you have enough space for all of your stuff, and you got to make sure that you can keep that stuff organized.
Yes.
It's the most important part,
That's a super important part. Yeah.
because having storage on your laptop is just the same as having a file cabinet in your house or whatever. If you don't organize your files,
Then you'll never find them.
then you're never going to find it again. If it doesn't have a place that it's going to live and that it's supposed to go, then whenever you go back to look for whatever, you're never going to be able to find it.
Never.
And maybe you'll find it, but it'll take you way longer than
Yeah.
if you just put it in the right file or binder or folder or whatever. Same thing with your digital files. If you're doing Word documents and you are putting something on an SD card or an SSD drive or whatever, then just put it somewhere where you know that you're going to be able to find it again.
Mhm.
If you're in English class, then make an English class folder and put Word document folder in that folder, and then that's where all of your Word documents for English class go.
Forever.
Just as simple as that, you know, because then you never have to worry about, I wonder where that paper went that I wrote because something happened tonight and
Right.
I need it again. You never have to worry about that.
Next thing you know, you're rewriting.
And I feel like one thing that I had to force myself to do. Well, I had to force myself to learn how to organize my computer.
Mhm.
But I think the reason for that was because after I would finish an assignment, I would never think about it again.
Yeah, I
you
get
know,
that.
and it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, I don't need to organize all this stuff because after I finish this assignment, I'm not going to worry about it anymore because it's done and it's gone, and who cares? But I think being a creator and working in Premiere Pro
Mhm.
and losing a video file somewhere,
Yeah.
and then you open up your project folder
It's not
and
there.
and you got that little error code
Mhm.
on your screen, and you're like, and
Uh-oh.
it's like lost file,
Yeah.
locate now, and you're like,
Uh-oh. Where is it?
yeah, it's like I have no idea where I put that.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
So bad. You have
Yeah,
to re-import your entire SD card.
exactly.
Takes
And so it's
forever.
just one of those things where it's just like, just do it right the first time,
Mhm.
because once you figure it out and once you figure out a system that works for you,
It's really
it
nothing.
it really is like a fun thing to do also.
It's not difficult at all.
Yeah,
It takes
I mean,
2 clicks,
yeah.
if you set yourself up well.
and I mean, yeah. It feels so much better going into your computer and knowing where things are at and all this stuff. It just makes your life a lot easier, and I definitely think that is a back to school essential for
Yeah.
sure.
I just think having it and being organized is super important with that too. But also too with storage in general, I think with physical and digital, is it's always good to like overshoot the amount that you're getting.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like if you're buying a hard drive, right, like a bulk storage hard drive, and you're only going to get 256 gigs, which is stupid. Don't ever buy a 256 gig hard drive because it's going to cost like $60.
Yeah.
And you can just get way more for like a little bit more money. But it's always worth like spending the extra like $20 and then getting the terabyte, because that's so much more than 256 gigs of digital storage. And now you don't have to buy another one,
Yeah.
because something, and I haven't ran into this problem yet because I haven't had to be buying like multiple hard drives, but I mean, coming up soon, like I'm going to have to buy a second bulk storage drive, and then I'm going to have to remember what's on what, so I'm going to have to figure out a new system for that. But yeah, I mean, because if you have more space set up for the future, if you future-proof yourself, then you don't have to eventually break down your entire structure and then redo it. So super important.
Yeah.
Super, super important. Do you have more physical products?
Yeah.
Go ahead. We can run through them if you want to.
All right.
My next is digital.
Yeah. So, well,
Not really.
Yeah.
Because really where I got a lot of good stuff here is for the digital section. So.
Yeah. No, not
Okay,
really.
got it.
It could be for some people, but not for me.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, the digital section of this, which is I feel like where Caleb and I have the most expertise, because we do everything digitally.
Yeah.
Pretty much. We live in iPad land, both of us. We live in computer land, both of us. It's kind of a thing for our field of study, but it's also just where most people do most of their schooling at this point. So it's super important to have your computing situation figured out, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's the easiest way to hate everything that has to do with using a computer, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people who don't like using a computer have never used like a good computer, you know,
Yeah.
that can like run smoothly. And whenever you ask your computer to do something and it just does it, like that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really here to give like computer recommendations, but we've always used Apple computers and we've never had issues. So here we are. I think that's something that especially college students underestimate is because most college students work from laptops. And just kind of around is like your peripherals. I think that there's something really special about using like a mouse and like a keyboard. But specifically a mouse, I think it's really worth investing in that because I have not used a trackpad like extensively in my like time, you know, especially not like as a digital creator. Like I've never even been in a Final Cut timeline with a trackpad before. But I would imagine that hurts your hands after a little while because it's not really like massively ergonomic and stuff like that. And anyway, spend a lot of time in front of your computer. It's super worth getting your peripherals figured out. So that just basically meaning your mouse, your keyboard, your headphones, whatever else, like speakers if you're into that sort of thing. You know, those kinds of things are super important to get kind of figured out so that way you can just use your computer efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's a super good way, too, to like stunt, you know, the use of, it's like putting square tires on your car, you know, just doesn't roll the same.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree. Yeah, I have computer on my list, definitely. If you're in school, you're going to have a computer.
Yeah.
And so there's just no way around it pretty much. Especially if you're going to college or if you're in college, then computer is
absolute
100% essential.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to have one. If you're in high school, they're probably providing one for you
at this point.
If you need to have one. But I had my own laptop whenever I was in high school, and it was just that was better for our situation because in high school we were working on iPads for school,
which is a weird situation, but anyway.
Yeah, weird situation, but if you don't have a computer and you're in high school and your school doesn't give you one, I would still consider getting one because you're going to need one for college anyway. And so I just think that it's a smart thing to do. Go ahead and figure out how to work one and all that stuff and get all that stuff out of the way so that whenever you go to college you're ready and you know how to use your stuff and that's super important. But yeah, getting a nice computer that is gonna not give you issues is one of the most important things, because the last thing that you want to have to worry about whenever you're already worrying about everything else is my computer going to work? Yeah, is my computer good enough to work for however long I need it to work or whatever? And computer issues, they're going to happen, you know, but just you can eliminate them with the quality
of the
machine that you choose.
It's the same as the backpack.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
Because and the way that you have to look at it with a computer is like there are cheap computers and there are like mid-range computers, which is where most people should exist. But like it's the cost per use. Yeah. Think about how many times you use your computer every single day. And then think about how much it costs and then do the math.
Right.
Like think about how insane that is. I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like the cost per use of my computer is probably like 2 cents per use.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's worth the investment because it's not like it's going to die on you either. Like if you future-proof yourself, then that's kind of one of the big things when it comes to technology purchasing is like future-proofing yourself, like getting a machine that's good enough to like where you're not going to get like upgraded out of into be like becoming obsolete. So that can happen for sure.
Yeah.
We're also both avid iPad users.
Oh yeah.
I think it's truly the best piece of technology ever made for students. We've talked about that on the show before, and so I won't go super far into it. However, not everybody can use one. Like if you're in engineering or whatever other kinds of fields of study that aren't like, I don't even really know, like it requires different pieces of software where you can't really use this. But I think that for most majors, honestly, you can probably get away with like an iPad with like a keyboard. You could probably get away with that.
Yeah.
And it just depends on how much you need a laptop, you know? We need a computer in some kind of way to make videos. Like we just need access to pro software. if you're not somebody who needs that, and you can get away with using like Apple Notes and like Google Docs, then like the iPad's perfect for that. You know,
Right.
you can totally handle that. And it's super good just in general because it just makes sense to write on the PowerPoints that your professors give you.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Mhm.
There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
And it's super good for videos, and it's super good for a million different things. And so I just can't recommend the iPad enough to anybody that is like a student. It is like, it's sort of like my sidearm piece of tech, but it also kind of isn't. Like it serves a different purpose for my computer than my computer solves. But I think a lot of people think it's like the stigma that the iPad is like a stupid thing that people get because they like have the extra money, and then it's just like something that you don't use as much as your computer, and it's kind of like a toy. At least from my experience, it's totally not a toy. It totally has a purpose, and I carry it everywhere in my backpack all the time because it just is insane. So
yeah, I absolutely love my iPad so much. It is, it truly does change the way that you do school after you have one. I love taking notes on my iPad.
Me too.
I think that it just makes sense. You know,
Never lose them.
Yeah, you can really be more. I would say, I don't want to say you can be more sloppy.
I would say that,
but
my handwriting is way worse on the iPad.
Yeah, but you definitely can be more sloppy because it's like if you write something here, then all you have to do is draw a circle around it and pick it up and move it over here wherever you need it to go. But like on a piece of paper, you can't do that. So it's like you have to be more intentional, I think, whenever you're taking notes on a piece of paper because you only have so so much room. 100%. You know, on iPads you have infinite sheets of note taking space. Yeah, so that is the next thing on my list is a note-taking tool. So whether you have an iPad and that's where you want to take notes on, that is what I prefer 100% every time. That's just what I enjoy. I think it's more fun. That's just the way that my brain works, I think. But for some people, it's paper and pencil. Sure, if that's what you want to do. If you want to open up like
docs,
docs on your computer and type your notes out.
Crazy move.
Go ahead, but you better be working out your fingers,
dude.
And you better type fast,
dude. I think I'm pretty good on the keys, but there's no way.
Yeah, that's a bold strategy. Bold
strategy, yeah.
But so just a note taking tool that works for you, and we talk about this all the time. If you're in high school and you're listening to this and you're going to college or you're going to college soon, then please start taking notes in class in high school. I know for a fact you'll be the only one, and I know that your bros are going to make fun of you.
Yeah, facts.
But I promise you that it'll make it so much easier for you in the future if you just learn how you take notes best. If you just learn how, you don't have to become a pro note taker in high school, but just learn
what strategy you need to take.
Yeah, and what makes note taking fun for you. Because I promise you that sitting through biology lecture is not fun.
No.
And taking notes is not going to be fun. But you can at least make your note taking strategy fun, so that you can enjoy writing down all this information.
Facts. And then you'll reference it.
Yeah, that you don't want to write down, but if you make your note-taking strategy fun and it just works for you, then it'll make it that much better, and it'll make your 3-hour biology lab
way better.
Not that bad.
Yeah, 100%.
And so definitely just figure it out the way that it works for you because it's so important. And I know that you're going to have to take notes in college.
There's just no way.
There's no way around it because what I always told myself was I don't take notes in high school.
Yeah.
I don't really study for tests that much.
I'm a tank. There's no way I'm failing.
Yeah, college is not going to be that much different.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have to take notes. I'm not going to have to study that much. All these people are just pulling my leg, trying to scare me about college. But I promise you,
done for, bro.
If you do not take notes and you don't study in college, you will fail your stuff.
At leleast some classes. There will be a class that's too hard for you to handle it.
Yeah, and so...
Because I always felt the same way as that.
Yeah, and so...
Psychology, boom.
Yeah, it's so much easier to just figure it out while you're in high school and while the content that you're learning is easy enough to where you can, like, fool around a little bit and try different things.
Mhm.
And if something doesn't work, it's not like you're really missing out on content because you can still pick it up later on or whatever. High school is the time for that kind of stuff. And so I think that is so, so, so important.
Yeah, 100%. I think, too, physical notes, at least for me, it still has a place.
Oh, yeah.
Not really for school as much. Like I talked about, I have sticky notes. I also keep like this little white book in my backpack all the time, just in case I ever have like ideas. Because I find, like you said, like writing physical notes is more intentional. I'm much more likely to like reference back paper notes than I am to reference back digital notes when it comes to like random things like that. That's why I use sticky notes, is because like they're just there, like really obviously there. And so anyway, for me, things that I like need to remember or I need to like reference back to quickly, I'll remember them if I do them physically, because it's like, well, why did I write this down with an actual pen? Like, why is the pen out on my table? Oh, wait, So anyway, that's something that's worth kind of thinking about. Another thing that's with digital that's super important is your software and your apps. Super important to get that in line and figure out what you like and what you don't like, because whenever you're going to college, you usually have choice in some kind of way. So the most common and probably the choice that you're going to have to make for a lot of people is like you're going to be your document editor of choice. I've never heard of a school not giving their students like Word for free.
Yeah.
A lot of people really like Word. Word's great. It's kind of like the document editor in a lot of ways. And what a lot of people come out of high school using is Docs. Docs is pretty good. It has its faults, but it's also easy and it's kind of seamless. I don't know if anybody uses Pages.
I hope not.
I hope not too. But if you do, cool, I guess. But anyway, it's worth getting that kind of in line, kind of figuring out if you're going to live in the Microsoft world or the Google world or I guess the Apple world when it comes to that. But also, like for us, like as kind of creatives, like at some point in our lives, we've had to make the choice between like Premiere and Final Cut or like Lightroom and whatever, and just different pieces of software that we've been able to use kind of through our journey and stuff. And as well as like apps, like it's worth downloading like your learning management or whatever those like your Blackboards or your Canvases.
Yeah.
It's worth downloading those apps to your phone or to your computer. I don't think you're downloading that to your computer, but like your iPad or whatever. So it's super important to get those kinds of things in line and figuring out like what you like and what you don't like. And it's worth doing that in high school too. Like I don't know if you can try Word in high school for the low. Probably not, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't even know.
But maybe you can. So like if you can, it's worth trying that out and kind of getting familiar. If you can use Word in high school, I recommend it because it's way better than Docs.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just now breaking off from using Docs from high school because it's just what I think of using. So it's worth doing that because like your computer or your iPad or your phone or whatever is only as good as the software or apps that you run on it. So you need to figure out what you need to use and what you like to use and then just start using it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. My next thing on my list is a to-do list / calendar of some sort. Again, I like to do that digitally. In my world. That's just what makes sense. It makes sense for me to have a calendar pulled up on my computer because that's what I'm on. That's what I'm looking at. But we talked about it on the last episode. We talked about it last year. Syllabuddy.
Yeah, Syllabuddy. It's great.
It's incredible. Download your syllabus, upload it, and then it'll put all of your dates and stuff into your calendar
automatically
of choice.
Yeah.
And so that is definitely something that you need to do if you are in college.
Especially like first time in college.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
Yeah, it makes a difference. It really does. It helps you keep track of all your stuff because once you got 6 classes and you got 6 different course timelines, then it's going to be hard for you to keep up with your dates and stuff. And so it just makes sense to put it in your calendar because you're going to be looking at it anyway. You got to know what day it is. You got to know what you got going on that day if you got an appointment, So it just makes sense to have all your stuff just automatically sent over there because you're going to be looking at it anyway, At least I would be To-do list, I do this a couple of different ways. I have an app on my phone, and I put all the stuff that I got to do for the day in the app, and then it pops up on my screen on my phone. I got a little widget, and then I also have one on my laptop. And every time I finish something, then click, and then it goes away.
And it goes ding, ding for
Yep.
sure. Yeah, it's
And then so that's how I keep track of all my stuff. But also I have a planner
great. Mhm.
that is pencil and paper that I write stuff in. I used to write my to-do list in there, and I would do it on paper and on
Digital.
digitally, just because I was like, this helps me get things done better if I write it down twice.
Mhm.
But then I learned that I don't have to do it on paper for me to get it done. I get it done with it all digitally. But I do write my important dates and stuff, all that in my planner, so that I can remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that it's super important, because that is another thing that I didn't do in high school, was keep track of dates. And I wouldn't say that I missed a lot of stuff because I wasn't taking care of my dates, but I just think that it takes an extra level of stress off
100%.
whenever you just know whenever stuff has to be done.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you just get the oh crap, when's this due, and then it's due in
25 minutes.
in an hour and a
Yeah.
half, and you're like, oh, now I have to
Figure
do
it out.
this.
Scramble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to just know whenever your stuff's got to be done, and so you can get it done pre-stress.
Yeah, 100%. I think that something else that's worth mentioning about that is you mentioned widgets. That is the best thing to do with those calendar and to-do list apps, because the widgets for them, at least on iOS and various versions of that across like the Apple world, the widgets for them are really good.
Yeah.
The calendar widget's really good. I use a to-do list app called TickTick, and its widget's really good. But also another little like kind of dumb hack, but it's worth kind of thinking and keeping in mind, is if you're on iPhone or any of the Apple devices, your calendar app, just like the little icon says the date. So it says the day.
Yeah.
Like it says, for example, it says Wednesday the 26th on my iPad screen right now. So putting that in a place where you can just quickly kind of reference it, like it lives on the top left of my iPhone home screen. It lives on my iPad's home bar. It probably lives on my Mac home bar too. So that way I can just super easily see it kind of at a glance. There are just ways where you can continuously shove that information into your face, and so then you can't possibly forget. That's always been my strategy, because I'm really bad at dates too. And so everything that's in my calendar and my to-do list, it sits on a Smart Stack widget on my phone, and it's only those two things, and it just spins back and forth between the two. So that way all day it's just like a billboard of like, do these things. Oh wait, it's Thursday. Just constant cycle. So that's always been super helpful for me when it comes to navigating something like that, because I at least suck at it naturally.
Yeah.
So it's not the best, but what can you do? Yeah. That's all I've got for digital.
Yeah, me too.
All right, cool. I have one last section, but if you have more products, then go through that, because my last one.
The only other product that I have is a water bottle.
Okay, got it. Stay hydrated, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that too much
Yeah.
for me to even get that deep into
It's a
that
choice to be thirsty, boys and girls. We talked
Yeah.
about that on every show
Yeah.
recently.
Just get a nice water
Yeah.
bottle.
Okay, I have two things that I think are worth mentioning that I've called, and they're in the mentality section of this thing. So
Boom.
it is super important. It is, I think, the most essential thing for any student, or any time that you go and do something new, or you have to restart something. School's like the only thing that you really take like a extended break off of and then come back. At least I think. I don't really know. But it's important to have these two things. And we'll start with the first one, which is a hobby. It's so important.
Yeah.
Especially for college kids or college students. You don't have to be a kid, but it's super important, because whenever you go to college, especially from high school, what you're going to find is that you have significantly more free time. And what are you going to fill that with? You don't want to fill it with that.
Yeah.
Not silence. Not nothing, right? That's the quickest way to like go crazy. It's the quickest way to, I think you're less productive when you don't have a hobby. I don't really know if there's any science to back that or not. I don't really care either. But like, at least for me, like I'm much less productive whenever all that I'm doing is like going to school and making videos. Like then you're just in the cycle,
Yeah.
You don't really want to be in the cycle ever. So it's worth having a hobby. And what I have on my notes is that you want to have one that's out, like, it's like separate from school and separate from work.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's kind of unique. And so that's kind of like the wedge that sports fit into for a lot of people, or whatever it is that you do. But it's super important to have a hobby that's separate from, like your school and your job. Super important. I think super important. And then the other thing that's super important to have, it's probably the most essential thing for students is a routine. You got to have that too.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, every week in college looks pretty much the same, and that's completely by design. Every day looks like every Monday pretty much looks the same, whatever. So whenever you get your school schedule, try and build things around your school schedule that are helping you pursue whatever it is that you're working on, and then also leaving time for yourself to like be a human. It's a good strategy too.
Yeah.
Do things that are fun, because then you will not be so sad all the time. And it's just super important. It's super good for you. But I also think that the structure of it is super good for you, because college is much less structured than high school, and especially whenever you're first making that transition from high school to college, it feels like you're just like a stray dog. You know, you just do whatever you want. You know,
Yeah.
There's no rules, but there are rules. You just haven't figured that part of it out yet because you haven't like hit the edges. But if you have the structure of it, you can really maximize your time because you have so much free time. You can really start doing anything. I mean, we started making a podcast in our spare time.
Right.
And it's become part of our routine, and now here we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have that much spare time, like just being in college rather than being in high school. So I think a lot of people go wrong with that. It's super easy to just do nothing whenever you're not at work or you're not at school or you're not wherever. But having that routine is super important, and a hobby. Got to have those things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just go crazy, I think.
Definitely.
At least for me, that's how it's been for me.
Yeah.
Because, like, whenever I first went to college, I didn't have either of those two things, really. And it was just like, ugh, like, this sucks, you know? Like, this isn't what I wanted it to be like or whatever. But then I, like, just figured it out. And routine, hobby, school, work, podcast.
Yeah.
Episode 70.
70.
Caddy Corner.
Boom.
Boom. What a show.
Yeah, that was incredible, I think.
This is what we this is what we do. So thank you guys a ton for listening to this show. I will link Syllabuddy in the description because it's the best tool, I think. It's so good for students if you want to have an organized calendar in literally like 15 seconds. So that link is in the description if you're interested. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Back to School Essentials, Student Essentials. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you get some of the stuff that we talked about on this podcast. If you do, just say thanks, you know?
Yeah.
That's it. Just say that you got the idea from us, you know? And yeah, you know, just like yell it in the Walmart.
Yeah.
You know, that'll be good. We'll hear it 100%.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, we do this kind of show every single Friday. This is the Back to School series, which is going to be who knows how long, where we're going to do content based around back to school. You know, it's a really strong title, the Back to School series. So, you know, very clear when it comes to that. We do this show every single Friday. Like I mentioned, we also do Caddy Corner after hours every single Wednesday, where we talk about whatever we want to talk about for as long as we want to talk about it. I'm Austin. He's Caleb, and we will see you all next week. Peace.